Hello friends, this video on squares and square roots part 5 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam.
Now, another important property, that squares of even numbers are even and squares of odd numbers are odd. Yes, this is true. So let's look at the same list once again. So when you look at this, you would see that all the odd numbers, so 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So these are all odd numbers. So when you look at their squares, so what are their squares? 1, 9, 25, 49, 81. So what are these? These are also odd numbers. Now, I hope all of you know what is an odd number. Odd number is that number which is not divisible by 2. And even numbers are those which are divisible by 2. Okay, so in this case, you see odd numbers, you square them, the result is also odd number. Right? On the contrary, look at the even numbers like 2, 4, 6 and 8, and they all gives results which are even again. So let us take some odd and even numbers randomly, like some bigger numbers which are odd and even respectively, and see if this rule holds true. So first let us take a set of even numbers. Let's say 22, 86, 192, 3022. So these are all even numbers, and let's say that we have to find out the squares of these even numbers. So what is the square of 22? So 22 square is 484. So you see at the end you have an even number. So here also at the end you have even number. 86 square is 7396. So even here, even here. 192 square is 36864. Here also, even here, even here. So also another very simple logic is that since you have 2 at the units place, so here units place would be 2 square, that is 4. Here units place is 6. So here units place would be 6 because 6 square is 36. Units place again 2, so this would be 4. So with that logic also this holds true, that whenever you square an even number, the result is also an even number. So here also whatever the result may be, but at the end you will have a 4 because it is 2 here. So 2 square is 4. Similarly, if you look at some odd numbers, let's say 31 square or 101 square or 793 square or 1645 square. So if you look at the values of each of these, so 1645 square would give you 2706025. So you have a 5 at the end, which is odd. 793 square gives you 628849. So 9 again is odd number. 101 square is 10201. So 1 again is odd. Similarly, try to find this out. 31 square. So here 1 is at the units place, so definitely at the end we are going to have 1. But what would be the exact value? You can calculate it yourself. So now, what do you see? That even if we take some even and odd numbers randomly and square them, we see that the squares of even numbers are even and the squares of odd numbers are odd. Another interesting property, perfect squares can only have even number of zeros at the end. So now we are talking about numbers with zeros at the end. So if we say that a number with zeros at the end is a perfect square, what do I mean by that? I mean to say that that number is a product of two same numbers. For example, let's think of 100. So 100 is an example of a number with zeros at the end, right? Now, is 100 a product of two same numbers? Yes, because 100 is a product of 10 and 10. So two same numbers, when you find their product, you get 100. So 100 is a perfect square. But how many zeros 100 has? 100, there are 2 zeros in 100. Now let's take another number which ends with 0, but this time there are 3 zeros. So in this case you have 3 zeros. So you do not have even number of zeros. So this 1000 can be written as a product of 100 into 10. So are they two similar numbers? No, they are not similar numbers. Like in this case, 100 can be written as 10 square. But in this case, 1000 cannot be written as 10 square or 100 square, because 10 square would be 100 and 100 square would be 10,000. So there is no such number for whose square is 1000. So 1000 is not a perfect square. So with these two examples, what do we see? That a perfect square has even number of zeros, whereas a non-perfect square has how many zeros? Odd number of zeros. See here you have 3 zeros. So a number ending with odd number of zeros will be a non-perfect square, and a number ending with even number of zeros would be a perfect square. Again, if you take the example of 10,000, so here you have how many zeros? So you have 4 zeros. It's an even number of zeros. Now if you look at it, you would see that it is 100 into 100. So 100 square is 10,000. So this is also a perfect square. So in this fashion, if you are given any random number, so just by counting the zeros at the end, you can tell whether that number would be a perfect square or not. So you do not even need to find out its factors or find out which number square is this. Just by looking at the number of zeros, you can decide if that number would be a perfect square or not. If a number has n zeros at the end, its square will have 2n zeros at the end. Now this is quite logical. Now when I say 10 square, what do I mean? I mean 10 multiplied by 10. So the moment you multiply 10 with 10, what happens? The number of zeros double. Why double? Because you are multiplying 10 double times, like 2 tens are getting multiplied. So the number of zeros also get doubled. For example, here 100 square. So 100 has how many zeros? 100 has 2 zeros. But the result is 10,000, which has 4 zeros. So 4 is 2 times of 2. Right? So whenever you have a number with some number of zeros, if the number has 2 zeros, its square would have 4 zeros. If the number have 5 zeros, its square would have 10 zeros. If the number has 20 zeros, its square would have 20 into 2, that is 40 zeros. So any number, look at that number, see the number of zeros. If the number of zeros are even, that is a perfect square. Also, if you have to find the square of a certain number ending with zeros, so if you have some whatever number of zeros, you just multiply it by 2. So that many number of zeros would be there in its square.
Thank you. Please visit examfear.com for free quality education. You can learn with a simple 4-step learning process wherein you can watch video lessons, you can ask your questions, you can refer notes, and you can take a free online test. We have content for class 6 to 12 on physics, chemistry, mathematics, and biology along with practical videos. So please subscribe to our channel for daily updates. Thank you.